All right, Wholesale Real Estate Weekly Update number 25. We are cooking a little bit more. Got two contracts this week. Had one termination that I had to do this week, and then I had one that needs to be renegotiated but can't get that seller back on the phone. So we'll see what happens on that one. Pretty productive week. I definitely turned the lead flow back on. Some highlights that I'd like to kind of talk about first is iSpeedToLead. So I got to go live with them. That was pretty amazing. Story behind that. In TU, we have implementation hours, and one of them is an affiliate hour where some of the vendors that TU recommends will come in and talk about their products. So iSpeedToLead was one of those. I actually came into this meeting about 30, 40 minutes late, popped in, and what's interesting is Jason was talking about an idea to Gene, who's the owner of iSpeedToLead, and said, hey, we should do this thing where you take a little bit of a newer wholesaler and you take a more veteran coach wholesaler and have them make calls while the coach is giving feedback to the newer person while the calls are happening. Gene loved the idea. He said, let's do it. Let's do it right now. And so he's like, who wants to do it? Immediately I raised my hand. I was like, let's go. We can do this. And they're like, who's the coach? So first two people that came to mind, as always, people that I look up to very highly, Caesar and Tyler. So I immediately hopped in Discord, said, hey, they're calling for you guys. You guys come in. Caesar ended up saying yes. We went live literally the next day, 4 p.m., had a handful of conversations. A lot of them were just nothing and kind of, trash to where they're like, there's nothing we can really do with it. Either they're wanting too much retail for a price or they're just hanging up and going through. Had one legitimate conversation out of that. The objection on that one was basically not being local. She also had someone that was kind of talking in her ear, but I had a whole little earpiece in, talking on the phone. I was getting coaches we were going through. That was just a cool experience. iSpeedToLead. Appreciate the opportunity for doing that because that was amazing. Another highlight was yesterday. Joey Dirte, Dispo Joe, just always, man, dude, this dude is crazy. When I get older, I want to essentially be like him because his wealth of knowledge on real estate investing is just, it's crazy. If he says anything about anything real estate, I believe it. Like, it just says it with such conviction, with such ease, and just a mastery level of just like execution on this subject. He gave just free value to a handful of us that signed up, which is just crazy. I don't understand why more people don't go to these things. But there was like 17 of us in there in a Zoom call. We were talking about novations, just wealth of knowledge on that and what that process looks like, what it actually looks like, and how you should actually be structuring this with your deals. He even said the newer people, kind of like me, it's like, you don't need to be focusing on this. You need to get probably 5 cash transaction deals under your belt before you even start kind of pushing into this strategy. But if you do find them, push them over to him, and then, we'll work them together. They're just such cool. Wealth of knowledge. Love Joey. Just can't wait to do some deals together with him because he's given me so much back. I want to be able to fund that back with some compensation at this point because, just crazy amount of value for free. What else we got going on? So we also had a couple of conversations this week. Like I told you, I turned the lead flow on. I'll talk about my KPIs with my leads because I've been tracking that a little bit differently and a little bit more aggressively. But some of the conversations of the deals that were going on this week, the 2 contracts that got locked up, one is in West Virginia. The other one is in South Carolina. West Virginia, the numbers seem like they pan out. The South Carolina one, it was definitely too high locking it up. But I knew that we set an expectation that it's probably going to be lower, but let's take it to the market and see what we can get back. So gave the transparent wholesale spiel and everything, looking for the end buyer. I submitted that to the JV Dispo portal. We had it locked up at 50. They're saying we need to get it back at 15. So I need to have that conversation with her and see if we can get that down to that number to see if we can actually get this moved for. Other conversations that I had besides the ones that I got under contract, one was in North Carolina. This was a hero call from Sammy. And this was like, sweet old lady. He said that he couldn't, get the motivation. He couldn't get as much information out of her of what she was trying to accomplish. Essentially, I had almost a 2-hour conversation with this lady. I know everything that she's trying to do, why she's trying to do it, why the significance, the purpose, the story behind the numbers that she's looking at getting. I think we can be a solution. She was wanting 190. I think we need to be closer to 155. after taking it to Cassie as well, she's kind of articulating that she thinks it probably needs to be closer at 140 to move. Doesn't need to be at 120, which is offers that the lady's getting constantly. We're going to have another conversation on Monday, and I'm just going to kind of lay it on her straight. These are my options. This is what I could probably do for you. We're going to take this and aggressively push it out and like get feedback in the next week to 2 weeks, and we'll go from there. So hopefully we can move that forward, because I don't want her to have to deal with this property anymore, and the potential chances of her having to renovate it or, I don't know, keep it as a rental when she doesn't want to do it. So we'll see if we can be a solution there. Another one was in Macon, Georgia. That was a story in and of itself. That was a very easy conversation because the dude was just a straight shooter. Ex-wife situation, divorce. She was supposed to be paying money towards the mortgage. He found out that she was not for months, and now they're basically starting the process of foreclosure. He's about 5 months behind, almost $7,000 in arrears. He doesn't really, I would say he has zero equity. It is a very, very tight cash flow play, but my thought process is we can enter on the deal for very cheap. We can throw some money in there for repairs and then potentially do like a quick flip or do a fix and flip, but with an easier entrance with a substitute entrance. So I want to run that by Joey or anybody else, I guess, within TU. Joey's kind of my go-to guy on these kind of things. So we'll see what happens on that one. Definitely. The dude said he talked to 3 other people. He said, I don't care about those other 3. I'd rather work with you because you seem like you know what you're talking about. So love those little compliments of that nature. He had other offers and like they just didn't make sense to him. I laid out everything for him. I laid out the options, what this would look like. And, you know, he was just willing to hear me out and just believe the conviction of what I'm saying, and that I could probably get this thing done if, you know, he hears me out on the numbers that we would need. Another one was this dude named Eric in Illinois. He is in foreclosure. This was like a rapport building one where I definitely beat out the other competition. I never submitted an offer, but I have like a commitment that I'd rather go with you than go with anyone else, because I actually listened to his problems. I actually listened to what was going on, and, you know, am willing to try to help this guy as opposed to just buy the property. So I didn't even give an offer. I'm not sure that I could be a solution at a number that's beneficial for him, but I do believe that I can take care of the needs that he's trying to accomplish, not necessarily the number that he wants. So we'll have another conversation after he gets in contact with his lender. He's also got to do some sort of guardianship thing. I'm going to let that kind of phase out for just a little bit, and then I'll get back in communication with him and see. Another very interesting thing that I actually didn't write down, but did happen this week when RJ and Jerry went live. They were calling Red Panda Metro leads. And what was interesting is Jerry got one of the sellers that I'm under contract with on the phone. And like Jerry actually started to call it out. Like, do you know an Anthony? Like an Anthony Alberti? And at first the seller was like, no, I don't know an Anthony. He asked, are you under contract? No, she just said, I don't know an Anthony, but he asked, are you under contract? She said, no, I'm not under contract. I was definitely under contract with her. He said, do you know an Anthony? And she said, oh, I do know an Anthony. And then he even said Anthony Alberti. He was like, yeah, I actually do. And I actually am under contract. And, you know, Jerry's biggest thing was like, she was an older lady. He was like, don't lock these people up if they're not in their right sound of mind. Make sure you get somebody else on the phone. To me, she was in a coherent state of mind and didn't have as many people that were there with her. But, you know, I had great rapport with her. I told her that, look, it's a long shot of the situation we were trying to accomplish. There's barely any equity. I told her I would try to. I dished it out to a handful of people. We couldn't do anything. So that was the one that I ended up having to terminate. But it was just interesting to see someone having a conversation with someone that you are currently under contract with. And, we're all buying the same leads, everybody. Like, I'm pretty sure that was a Red Panda lead for me. And he got it from, you know, it was a Metro property leads for him. So I think I got it for a $30 property lead. I think he bought it for a $75 property lead. These people are filling out multiple forms. If they're in distress and they need to sell their house, they're not just filling out one. So again, we're all literally buying the same leads over and over and over and over again. Anyway, so those are my deals that you have potential that are going through. Let's talk about some of my lead flow. So since all of this week and then all of not all of last week, but since Wednesday of last week, August 4th, I think was the date, I started to get 3 property leads every single day and then turn on Red Panda, roughly getting 1 to 3 every single day from Red Panda. 1 or 2 of those days, I just didn't get any, especially like that iSpeedToLead day. I didn't turn on the lead flow because I got a bunch of leads. But some KPIs that I got. So I'm going to read these off. I got 38 leads within that time period. So 5, 6, 7, 8 within an 8-day span, like business days, 8 days. I've bought 38 leads. 17 of those connected. 8 of those have been deaded. 6 have been into a follow-up status. 6 have gotten offers, and then 2 have been contracted. So like going through what that looks like is I had a 44% contact rate. So between the 17 and the 38. So almost half of the leads I called actually answered, and I'm still actively working those every single day. Offer rate, I had a 35% offer rate. So 6 to 17. So what that looks like is every 3 conversations I had, I made an offer. So I don't know if it's just like dead leads or like it wasn't worth even making an offer potentially, but every 3 conversations I'm having, I'm making an offer. And I have a 5% contact or contract rate. So that means 2 for 17. I've had 17 conversations. 2 of those have turned into contracts. So for every 3 offers I make, I'm getting a contract out based off the 2 to 6 offer rate from contract to offer. And then I guess net leads out of the 38 leads that I've gotten with the 2 contracts, I'm 1 for 19. So I'm getting a contract for every 19 leads that I buy at this current moment within a very, very small window of analysis. And specifically, if I go through those numbers, I bought 15 leads from Red Panda and 23 leads from property leads. And the 2 contracts that I got were from property leads. I've not gotten anything from Red Panda. So technically, with the contracts, I am 1 in 12 for the $30 nationwide property leads. I've gotten 2 contracts out of those 23 that I bought, and technically I've only contacted 10 of those. So I'm 1 in 5 out of the ones that I've had conversations with off of property leads. So there's just data. I'm going to consistently, for the last couple months, I've turned it on and off and on and off and on and off. I haven't had the consistency. So for the next probably month or so, probably 2 months, I'm just going to have the steady trickle in of leads that are coming in consistently from the same place. That way I can track it over a long period of time, make sure that I'm continuously making offers, make sure that I'm still trying to lock things up within the web, or at least where they're touching the web, somewhere within the vicinity. And really that's it. The biggest hurdles that I have right now, I think on my conversations are the close and then the transparent wholesale and how to pitch that, or not necessarily pitch, but how to verbally articulate that to a seller without saying I'm going to attempt and try and maybe, and have more concise language that these are the numbers. This is the way that we can make it move. This is the process that I do. I don't have the vocabulary at this point or the script. I don't like saying script because I like the fluidity of conversations, but some sort of path, some sort of touch points to stay on track with still getting that same process articulated to the seller. So, good week, very, very good week, very, very productive week. Let's do the same thing next week. Probably not going live next week, but definitely want to keep those leads coming on. Definitely want to keep increasing those contracts and make sure that all these leads that I've not connected with, I want to make sure that I do connect with some of those leads. Other than that, very good week. Remember to stay happy, hungry, and humble, and I'll see you next week.